Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the December 3rd, 2024 legislative session of the town of Ossining. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Me talking, you're gonna get my announcements, all right. Okay. Let's see, the dog park at Cedar Lane is gonna be closed tomorrow, Wednesday, December 4th, as we are doing some work getting the solar powered lights installed. The new playground at Ryder Park is now open. The location includes ADA compliant play areas for children of all capabilities. The Project Mover e-bike program is going on a winter pause starting Monday, December 9th. The e-bikes will return after the winter season. This program has been extremely successful so far and has plans on expanding to the surrounding communities. The tree lighting at Market Square will be held on Friday, December 6th, starting at 6 p.m. There will be musical performances and Santa himself will be making an appearance. The menorah lighting will also be held at Market Square at 6 p.m. on Thursday, December 26th. The Ossining Boat and Canoe Club is running their holiday toy drive. There are many available locations to drop off toys, including the Ossining Fire Department headquarters, OVAC, Scorduzio's Deli, Risco Music, Sing Sing Kill Brewery, and many more, and the boat club. For a list of detailed locations, please check the Facebook page. The Toys for Tots is also running a toy drive, and there's boxes at the clerk's office and at the Ossining Police Department. The 109th Baker Collier Christmas Cheer Fund is currently underway collecting donations. The fund is an all-volunteer organization that packs and delivers food to families in our community who are in need of assistance. Last year, they did over 300 baskets, but funds are needed. Please visit their website at www.thebakercollierchristmascheerfund.com for more information. The Village of Ossining train station parking permit renewal has begun for next year. Current permit holders have until December 16th, 2024 to renew their parking permit. Then parking permits will open up to those on the wait list starting December 17th. Please check the Village of Ossining website or Facebook page for more information. Hudson Compost is a new company that will pick up your compost at your door. New customers can join for free through 2024. For more information, please visit their website at hudsoncompost.com. Westchester Collaborative Theater is presenting the world premiere of musical Gladys Day. For showing information, please visit their website at wcttheater.org. The Briarcliff Manor Sustainability Advisory Committee is going to be running a holiday swap event the weekend of December 7th. You can switch out decorations, linens, anything holiday. Please visit the Briarcliff website for more information. The Hudson Valley Books for Humanity is running many great events these upcoming weeks. For more information, please visit their website at hudsonvalleybooksforhumanity.com. The Ossining Parks and Rec Department will be hosting Breakfast with Santa on Saturday, December 7th. They have 2 sittings that day, one at 9 a.m. and one starting at 10:30 a.m. You must register in advance or online. Advance online or in person at the recreation office. For more information, please visit the Ossining Recreation website. Bethany Artist Community has early registration open for the 2025 Kids Create Camp. For more information about this fun and creative camp, please check out their website at bethanyarts.org. As always, the Ossining Public Library has many events, including movies, crafts, meditation, tutoring, book clubs, chess, yoga, and more. Please see their website, ossininglibrary.org, for more information. And finally, the Loft LGBTQ+ Community Center has everything from events and programs to resources and presentations, all dedicated to providing support to anyone that is a part of the LGBTQ+ community, including many virtual and in-person support groups and clubs for a multitude of different topics. Please check out their website at loftgaycenter.org for more information. And for many other events being held locally and fundraisers, you can look at my weekly supervisors update and supervisors webpage to see them. Any of my colleagues have any? Okay. Moving on. Mike with us? All right, Mike, you ready for your department report?
Yes, folks, I am. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Right. Let's see if this works. All right. So I have just a brief departmental report this evening.
Beautiful.
All right, we're going to go through just a couple of items. Small claims assessment review. We are effectively complete with this year's small claims SCAR cases. Much thanks to Deputy Assessor Al Closey. Really pushed our calendar to get this done on the early side. As everyone knows, we have a 2025 reappraisal, and we wanted to dedicate our efforts to that for the future as opposed to looking backwards to the past. So we got a lot of those out of the way. Article 7 tax certs, we're at a busy point right now with the court. I'll talk about that a little bit. And of course, a 2025 reappraisal update. And finally, some success we had with our IAS system for the first time, getting a 995 billing file out of that system, as opposed to our legacy system, which we've been using for many, many years. So just a quick recap. We had just about 400 grievances this year, 110 SCAR cases, 74 reductions, and 36 no changes as of just yesterday. We actually were in court just on 8 cases this year. It went very well for the town in the sense that we're at 100% of market value. It's our goal every year to properly estimate value, so we're not over, we're not under. We're trying our best to remain within a reasonable range of an appraised value for every property in town. And I think the results kind of speak for themselves. Fewer than 4%, I think, of all of our parcels show up to grieve, and a much smaller number go to SCAR and to certiorari. The average reduction in value has been 6%. And again, nominal reductions, single digit mostly, some as little as 1 or 2%. Because of, the town's dedication to being at 100% each year. Article 7s, they've heated up a bit. We had 79 commercial grievances. Many of these are repeat open years. We've got 2018, 2020, 22 with them. Sometimes we don't actually appear in court for several years. So we're just waiting on when the court is actually able to schedule these. It's of course our goal to find a reasonable settlement where we can find one, and if not, then to defend our values. Right now, we just have about 40 that are on the calendar going into 2025. And those settlements typically, when they occur, are anywhere from 5 to 20% of assessed value for each of the years. 2025 reappraisals. So we've made a lot of progress. As everyone knows, during the major reappraisals, we do more than what we do during an update year. Update years rely on market trends and just building permits. We look at sales, and there's other work that goes on. But the reappraisal, as I may have mentioned last time, we're doing data mailers. We're speaking with taxpayers at a greater rate. We're capturing new photos so that we can update our records and make our assessments even more precise. We're looking to redo our models and challenge some of the assumptions we've had on previous rolls about land and cost. So all of that gets done, and we've made some progress. So to that end, here's the reappraisal timeline. And as of today, I can say that we've completed the data mailers, made phone calls to homeowners. We've sent out income and expense mailers. Those have been returned. We've had many hundreds returned to us. And of course, that Cyclomedia street side imagery project that has been completed. While no imagery project is perfect, I still give Cyclomedia and Tyler a hand because this is something that's fairly new. And we're always trying to improve our processes, make them as least invasive as possible, yet at the same time, meeting our statutory requirements that the state of New York has set forth for reassessment jurisdictions, which I hope that we're doing with these types of efforts. Right now, ongoing, we've got valuation analysis, a lot of commercial land valuation. We're doing some more data collection, and we hope to see some preliminary values for the 25 roll in January, February. It's my understanding that we'll be doing some informal reviews well before the tentative roll, so we can iron out the wrinkles, communicate with taxpayers, and remedy any sort of outlier issues before we hit the tentative and grievance process. It's better for the town, it's better for the homeowners and for the folks who own commercial property to see us a little earlier in the spring. So that's going to be our goal. And just one other item, the billing. I don't have a slide for it, but for the first time, we were able to successfully work with Tyler on an extract file to modernize our billing. We use now one system to do both the valuation side of our work and the assessment administration side. So much thanks to Dale for helping us make this a success. This is our first time doing it, and we really appreciate your patience while we went through it. But I'd like to think that moving forward, we can replicate the success and we can do it for the town and county as well, and even for the village of Briarcliff Manor. So thank you again.
All right, thank you. Questions?
Just thank you as always for clear and concise reporting, and that I can actually follow along and understand what you're saying.
You council member, I appreciate it. Happy to do it. And I hope everyone had a good Thanksgiving and everyone has a great holiday coming up.
Mike, just one quick question. How
Please.
does the 110 SCAR cases compare to previous years?
It's actually a smaller number, and that's largely, I think, a function of the reduction in grievances that were filed. We had fewer self-represented cases, and even our representatives that sort of control the majority of those filings, they seem to file fewer grievances. And so that trickled down to the SCAR cases. It was really a fairly light year. I attribute that to a number of different things, but I think number one, it's at the end of 4 years between the last reappraisal and 2024. Some of the issues with those values, they've been ironed out, those wrinkles. I'd like to think at this point, there's very little to contest because, again, we're keeping up with values, and, for folks who need relief because maybe we've overestimated, overshot, we've taken care of them. So I think as time moves on, we just see a smaller volume.
Very good. Thank you.
Good.
Thank
And
you.
thanks for all the work you've been doing.
My pleasure.
Working hard. All right. Next, we're joined by our Ossining Police Department Police Chief Aaron Zimmerman and Lieutenant Drew Marion. Thank you.
How you doing, Chief?
Oh, wow.
Yep. This one? All right. So again, good evening. Hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving and a great weekend. So, kind of as we wrap up 2024, the last 3 quarters, we have the stats for all the town activity that's been going on. So we'll start off with the most popular parking ticket right now. This quarter, although it's not over, but we track some of the stats through today. Since parking became part of the ordinance on November 1st in the town, 10 summonses have been written. So, 10 people aren't listening to the rules. But prior to that, 50 parking summonses in the town have been written. This year to date, 1,226 V&T summonses have been written in the town, 111 of them this past quarter. 122 calls for service that required cases that, not to say that those are all the calls for services, but the ones that had some sort of element of a crime that required a case attached to it. Out of those cases, 82 arrests were made in the town this year so far, 6 this quarter. Just to break down some of those numbers even further, out of those arrests, 12 have been DWI, 7 town ordinances, which are, you know, a lot of the quality of life things that are in the town. And out of those 82, 46 were traffic related other than VNT, which are aggravated unlicensed operators and suspended and lapsed insurances, things like that, which are misdemeanors. 4 of those being this quarter and 1 town ordinance being this quarter. So, you know, altogether, parking tickets are up 257% this year from last. So, you know,
Do you see a reason for that or? You're now fully staffed?
staffing has something to do with it, yes, and maybe, you know, people maybe have gotten comfortable in the town. We don't have an overnight parking person, so the sector cars have been tasked with doing a lot of that work. And you know, they're doing it more often, and even that being said, the overnight parking person really didn't, you know, do too much in the town. They were just mostly concentrated in the village. So I don't know, maybe people just got comfortable parking in the town, maybe people are calm and
A lot of repeat offenders in parking?
that I don't know.
Or
No,
you
that
think it's all set, like they individually, different people every time?
well, usually what happens if someone gets comfortable parking, you know, overnight illegally, they'll continue to do so until they start getting tickets. And then after, you know, a few tickets are written, then they'll move their car off the street. And for the officers patrolling that sector, they'll say, oh, well, there's been a car parked there for the past couple of nights, you know, it's kind of easy fishing. So they'll head back over and usually, you know, the resident and or guest will get the hit and move the car off the street. But you know, that being said, in the town, we all know it's only illegal to park overnight November 1st through April.
Right,
So,
yeah. Well, if you start November 1st, by the time you need to plow,
yeah,
presumably they'll have gotten the idea.
yes, absolutely. Hopefully so. Hopefully so. You know, so that's the breakdown of the numbers so far. Lieutenant Mayorana has a list of projects that are going on, most of which are occurring all in the town, especially after the new paving that everyone is grinning and bearing, you know, thanks to all the residents for their patience and everything that's been going on. It hasn't been easy. I know some of the noise with the tree clearing and now the paving and, you know, the detours. It is inconvenient, but we appreciate everyone's patience as it's long overdue. And as with every road that gets repaved, it's a lot easier to drive and usually speed starts to go up. So once the roadway is fully paved and open again, you can rest assured that we'll be making sure everyone isn't taking full advantage of the new raceway out there. So,
Yeah, I have seen people, you know, getting into that nice new lane and taking off.
yeah, with, you know,
No more speed bumps.
potholes are, you know, they're a necessary evil sometimes to slow people down, but you know, it is very much, it is a lot nicer to drive on a nicely paved road.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So I'm happy to announce that the camera project at Lewis Angle Park is completed. We now have 10 active overview cameras in the park and on the roadway outside of Lewis Angle Park. They're running and recording 24 hours a day. There's also 2 license plate readers that we added to the park. Both bridges have a license plate reader on them, so any car that goes in or out of the park on either bridge, either Stoughton Bridge or Secor Bridge, will pass a license plate reader and it'll be recorded. So if we have any criminal activity down there, which we have had in the past, at least now we have a record of it. And we know which way they came in, which way they left, kind of a direction of travel gives us a starting point. If there's graffiti or if the Porta John gets lit on fire again or something of that nature, at least we have a starting point and we have hopefully some video footage that we can go back and submit as evidence. If we or at least start a case. We don't have a. the name
Were
of the
they
suspect.
helpful the other day?
I'll talk to you about that after.
Okay.
So, but yes, those are up and running.
Yes or no?
Lieutenant, would that trigger if somebody was just going down the drive, would that trigger somebody?
With the
If that license plate reader, would it trigger?
it hits every car that goes through.
Oh, okay, but it will let you know real time also, like they're going through, only if we check the recording.
If let's say we, you know, the county will provide us like a hot list that'll give us cars that are stolen, let's say, out of Westchester County. So if one of those cars passes by, that'll alert us.
Okay,
If we have a crime in progress, let's say we see a a gray Toyota Camry goes in there and spray paints the side of the bathroom wall. We can look and see, then, we can put in, search for a gray Toyota Camry, and it'll give us all the cars with the license plates that were gray Toyota Camrys on it.
Great, no, it's a good tool.
Oh,
Yeah.
it recognizes each brand. Wow.
To a degree, there's a science to it, but to a degree, it'll give us as close as we can.
And God forbid somebody, takes a child or does something like that.
God forbid, yeah, so
Yeah.
at least gives us a good starting point to solve that. So in 2025, we're looking to expand that project. We're gonna be installing a similar project, almost identical to that at Spring and Main, which is in the heart of the village, but also the village is in the center of the town. The two systems will work together. There'll be license plate readers at Spring and Main, as well as closed circuit TV cameras. That's where we have the tree lighting ceremony, the menorah lighting ceremony, the Portuguese fair. Padres Hispanos Festival is there. So it's an area of mass gathering. And all these tools are a force multiplier for us. We can only get so many boots to ground and times like that, but it gives us an eye in the sky where we can see more precisely what's going on and monitor it more closely. But all of these resources are also monitored by the Westchester County Real-Time Crime Center. So that's a second set of eyes that can potentially look at this information and help us in our efforts.
So you have a monitor at your desk as well as the county has one as well?
Yeah, the county has, with Yonkers, just like 200 cameras in Yonkers alone. So they have a screen with enormous cameras. I don't know if they're specifically looking at Ossining, but there is a guy there manning their cameras, or a guy or girl, I should say, they're monitoring the cameras.
Typically, technology such as this is a great tool for if we're alerted to something that is happening real time. There's not an officer sitting at a monitor like watching these things 24/7. It's not like a CCTV or security camera in that sense. But if something were to happen, we can go back and check surveillance. If something's happening in real time, we can log on and check it out. And the license plate readers are probably one of the best resources, is tracking vehicles either coming or going from crime scenes. So
So we'll have that installed at Spring and Main. Additionally, and both of those are utilizing the New York State Department of Homeland Security critical infrastructure grant. So both of those projects are funded by that, the waterfront in Spring and Main. This year we applied for the law enforcement technology grant, which we were awarded that. That's going to fund a bigger project with the license plate readers. We're looking to make it near impossible to get in or out of Austin without passing a license plate reader. So if someone comes in, if we get frequently, I shouldn't say frequently, but at times we've had groups come in from out of town, steal cars and leave. This would be a great tool for tracking. We know which way they came in, which way they left. Great tool for tracking that. And at least gives us a starting point as to where to look and start trying to solve crimes. Most important for the whole project, and most important probably to you, which would interest you guys the most, we're looking to put a license plate reader at the intersection of 134 and 9A. That's a big intersection, frequently traveled. A lot of cars come in off 134. A lot of cars go north and south on 9A. So we'll be installing one there with this project. Additionally, we're working with Briarcliff Manor. They also got a similar grant with the LE Tech. They also got a similar award, I should say, with the LE Tech grant. They're going to be installing license plate readers. They're going to put one at Chappaqua and North State. Sorry, I drew a blank there for a minute. I could picture the intersection in my head, but couldn't think of the roads. So they're going to put one at Chappaqua and North State, and we were going to be utilizing resources with license plate readers to install them in areas that will benefit both our community and Barnacles. We're going to trade it off locations today.
Chappaqua and North State, not North State and Pleasantville, or?
We'll have one near, North State and Pleasantville.
No.
No.
North
Well,
State and Pleasantville would be the light at the main
Oh, in Briarcliff.
in Briarcliff. I'm just testing my brain.
no, the proximity is a little too close, and also depending on where the secondary and tertiary roads off of Pleasantville and then Morningside are
Too close?
well, not too close, but they'll be able to be captured by other resources in that area.
Okay.
9A 134 with the access to the Taconic and Route 9 and Hawks at 134 coming in off the Taconic is probably one of the biggest intersections along Route 9 or 9A for that matter. That being, before the installation of this LPR system or that camera site. The only other LPR along Route 9 through the 9A corridor is in Peekskill and then down in Valhalla.
Wow.
So it really is kind of Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of closing that gap a little bit, which not only be a tremendous resource for the town and the village and also the village of Briarcliff Manor, but any agency countywide. So
Would it,
it really lends to the interoperability of everything that, is trending now in law enforcement.
so I appreciate, I appreciate all the heavy lift of the grant work that you've been doing. I think it's mostly you, but I know it's a lot of paperwork and I appreciate that your department has gone through this to get us these resources, which are great. Would the camera at 9 a.m. 134 be able to tell us any information about accidents? Would it have a camera or it's just a license plate reader?
They're not designed to alert to like a crash or something like that.
Okay.
Uh,
Or record it, like it's not a camera, it's mainly a license plate
It's
reader.
mainly like rather.
Okay, and would it be able to tell us just how many garbage trucks from around the county come through there? It's one of the things we've been looking at, to talk to the state DOT about the fact that it's a very big intersection and that's why both 134 and 9A deteriorate so quickly is most of the garbage from the county comes through our area.
The short answer is it's possible. It's not as easy as just, type in, give me garbage trucks. You'd have to run it by commercial license plates, then break it down from there,
Okay,
with pictures, but short answer, yes,
could be, but you don't, yeah, it'd take a
but
while.
it,
All right.
it's not as easy as just, putting in like tractor trailer and it'll give you any tractor trailer or garbage truck or open container truck, something like that.
Can you tell us how many tractor trailers come through there?
I have no idea how many tractor trailers go there.
Okay, I'm just
Right now-
asking.
Right now, no, I don't have an.
It's just data, we were interested in as we talk to the state about, improvements to the roads,
Sure, yeah,
so.
I'm sure it's something that we could sort out with the DOT and our own resources to figure out.
Do the license plate readers work as a deterrent as well, or they're kind of compact inside?
They're a little bit clandestine. I mean, the technology, I mean, people know about the technology. So unfortunately, sometimes, people want to do wrong, you switch plates or use stolen cars, things like that.
Yeah.
But it still is a valuable and probably one of the more valuable resources countywide that law enforcement uses to track vehicles from crimes.
I'm curious if, when people use the Waze app and it tells you when there's a red light camera or a speed camera, I wonder if they're gonna put in license plate reader.
Well, I mean, every toll you go through
Yeah,
Yeah.
has an LPR, so
Yeah.
it's, most school buses now are equipped with LPR technology. A lot of the parking enforcement vehicles in many communities run off of an LPR system where they just tag the tags that are inputted to whether or not somebody's either paid for parking or has a permit. So it's, the technology is widely used across all areas of law enforcement, so it's not, they're not designed to write tickets, they're not designed to issue summonses or anything.
I have a question kind of on a related note. Do you know if New York State as a whole has any kind of initiative to deal with all the people that scratch out their plates? It's like, it's becoming, I see it now like all the time, and I don't see New York State coming out with any kind of initiative, but I don't know if you guys ever heard of anything.
Well, it is a summons of the New York State Vehicle and Traffic Law to have a plate that's defaced. Whether or not New York's coming out with an initiative to deter that, other than a summons, that I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know.
but like if you saw one, are you allowed to pull, you're allowed to pull someone over for it?
Sure, it's a reason for a car stop.
Oh, okay, all right, I was curious.
Chief, I had another question too, is the school bus thing.
Yep.
I guess there's cameras being put on the school buses.
Yeah.
Is that something that-
They're operational.
Their operations, that's something that you'll have access to?
We'll have access to it through the school district.
They-
That's monitored and maintained by
Westchester County.
either the bus company or the district itself that supplies
So
the camera.
a person who violates the school bus will get notified later another time? like-
No, it doesn't work quite like that. It will record the car doing that, and hopefully it'll capture a license plate, so either someone's can possibly be written after the fact if we can prove who was operating the car, or at least identify, that it was done and, who owns the car, a conversation. would be
Have
had.
you been getting many complaints to your desk about?
Not a whole lot. Typically, the beginning of the year, it's a more frequent thing, because people are used to, driving around, everyone knows with schools out of session because the traffic gets a lot lighter and school buses aren't around and, the teacher, the commuter traffic, everything like that. But usually the first month of school, sometimes commuters that are impatient have a tendency to, go past the school buses with their stoplights or stop signs out. Some people don't know that doesn't matter how many lanes of traffic there are, if there's a barrier in the way. If the school bus lights are red or that stop sign is out, all traffic has to stop, not just the lane that's next to the bus. So, traffic traveling in the opposite direction. And even if it's, we'll say, in the middle of town in Hubbles or in the hollow there, all four lanes have to stop.
And that light's been a very good improvement for A and B in Claremont. I guess that's sensor lights, is that?
Yeah, they changed the cycle on that to help flush out the
That's
traffic.
like a big improvement there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know there's been some discussions with the school board about, different entry and egress point for AMD over the next few
Yeah,
years.
they're working on something.
Yeah, and I know that
Right.
traffic on, Havel Street is sometimes an issue with, teacher. Community.
Okay, did the school ask you to weigh in on the safety and the corner of Stormy Town where they want to put that?
It's been briefly discussed, whether or not, I haven't been asked directly what my opinion on it is. I know that I was in the meeting that we were all on where, I don't know if the geography lends itself to have it any other place. I don't know. But I think that's, a bigger discussion for, the engineers and everyone involved, but be more than happy to weigh in if necessary.
We may need to slow that road down a little bit. There's gonna be school buses. Anyway. All right, well, thank you very much
No
for
problem.
coming. Any more questions?
No, good.
Thank you.
Appreciate you taking the time.
Anytime. See you guys soon.
Sure, you're gonna send me that report.
Yes, tomorrow,
Stay
tonight,
safe. Thank
going
you.
back now.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Yep, and any-
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dale.
person too.
Okay. All right, next, we have Mr. Robert Danielle from O'Connor Davies and the one, the only Dale Brennan, our town comptroller. Here to talk to us about the Town of Austining, 2023 Town of Austining audit.
Okay, so good evening. I have a PowerPoint I'm going to try to share first. Let me know if you see that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so let me just put this here. Okay, again, good evening and thank you for having me present the audit results for the Town of Austining for the fiscal year ended December 31st, 2023. Again, my name is Rob Danielle. I'm a partner with PKF O'Connor Davies. Before I begin, I also wanted to thank the entire business office led by Dale Brennan, again, for their efforts throughout the audit process. It is a lengthy process, and they still have to do their day-to-day operations. So again, thank you. So instead of going through the big spiral audit report, I put together a PowerPoint. We'll briefly go through a summary overview and required communications. Very briefly, what are management's responsibilities? What are our responsibilities as your external auditors? The reports that we have issued and the opinions we have rendered. We'll spend a little time in the general fund, focusing on your budget to actual summary, and then looking back at some trends over a 3-year period on your revenues, your fund balance, and your expenditures. And then I pulled out a few of the major revenues just to give you an idea of where they're trending. Did that for the general fund, did that for the Town Outside Villages Fund, which is also a main account of the town. You do operate other funds, so we'll briefly touch upon those. There is a slide on your debt service requirements, and then we'll close with some summary closing points. So just quickly, although we do prepare the financial statements, they are ultimately the responsibility of management. So management must still select and implement the appropriate accounting policies and really follow the accounting standards, what they call United States generally accepted accounting principles. They must maintain and establish effective internal controls over financial reporting throughout the year and comply with laws, regulations, bid requirements, any types of provisions of contracts. And those are the items that we look at during the audit process. And really, they're responsible to giving us all the financial records so that we can complete the audit. Next slide here. Our responsibility, we take all that financial information and we're charged with rendering an opinion on the financial statements taken as a whole. We have issued what is termed an unmodified opinion. An unmodified opinion is a clean opinion. It's the highest level of opinion that an entity can receive, and it basically states that the financial statements present fairly the financial position of the town, again, as of December 31st, 2023, and in accordance with the accounting standards. We also issued what's called our required communications together with their management letter. I'm happy to report there was nothing really major to report that we would call a material weakness or significant deficiency. I think we had 1 or 2 comments, but nothing to be alarmed at. We also audit the Justice Court and we issue a separate report. Again, if we uncover any fraud or any type of illegal acts, you would know about it before we got to this point. So again, happy to report no fraud or illegal acts or allegations of fraud were noted. Again, no difficulties in the conduct of our audit. As I mentioned before, not only do we look at numbers, we look at the process. We look at some claims, we look at cash receipts, we look at your payroll function. So again, internal controls appear to be in place and operating as designed. What we mean by uncorrected or corrected misstatements mean that we didn't pass on anything. I think we had 1 or 2 entries. We proposed them to management and they're included in your audited numbers. And again, the business office, very cooperative. So again, this is your general fund budget to actual summary. Again, it's a high level look. Details can be found on pages 63 to 68 in the large spiral audit report. Again, you can see there are 4 columns. We'll focus on the first column, the original budget. That's what you folks, the town board, approved back in the winter of 2022. Again, from a high level, $6.2 million in revenues, almost $5.8 million in expenditures, representing an excess, if you will, of $416,000. When you factor in what we call other financing uses and sources, these are mainly transfers out to other funds, generally transfers to your highway fund, transfers to your debt service fund, your capital projects fund. You come down to that net change in fund balance, the bracketed $5,221. These are prior year POs or encumbrances that the town committed to, just didn't receive the goods or services, so they automatically roll from 22 into 23. The final column during the year, you can accept certain grants or other types of revenues, or you can have unexpected expenditures. In this case, no changes to the revenues. You did increase your expenditures, roughly about $83,000 to fund some maintenance of ball fields. Again, you were utilizing your fund balance to cover those. And you also amended the transfers out. You can see went from 421 to 507. You amended that about $85,000 for some Ryder Park playground resurfacing and some community center upgrades in the capital projects fund. Again, you're utilizing your own resources, your own fund balance to cover those. So you went from really a break-even budget to utilizing about $173,000 of your own fund balance for those aforementioned items. The third column is what actually happened. You can see your actual revenues came in excellent, better than you anticipated by $1.1 million, a little over 18% in the general fund. And you also had expenditure savings of about $380,000, 6.5% of the budget. You take your revenue, subtract your expenses, and you factor in your transfers, mainly your transfers out. You come down to that net change in fund balance to $1.3 million. That means you had revenues that exceeded expenditures by $1.3 million, and you're able to add that to your opening fund balance of $5.6 million. And you end the year at a little over $7 million. Again, important to note that third line from the bottom, As I mentioned before, if everything went according to your budget, you would have anticipated using $173,000 of your own funds. But not only did you not need to utilize that, but you actually generated a significant surplus, if you will. So all the way to the right, from a budgetary perspective, you did $1.5 million, again, from a budget perspective, better than you anticipated. And so I said you ended the year with a little over $7 million in fund balance. I give you a 3-year comparison. Fund balance is increasing over the 3 years. The big amount there is the unassigned, a couple of lines from the bottom. Some money is set aside. If we focus on the 2023 column, you have about $63,000 in a bucket that we call non-spendable for prepaid expenditures. That just means that you prepaid certain items, such as a retirement bill that was due. Retirement bills go through March. If you paid in December, you get a discount, and the town has been utilizing that to get the discount, interest discount on that. So that just means the cash has went out the door, but the expenditure hasn't been recognized. It will be recognized in 2024, and it will be absorbed from this bucket. There's a little bit of open POs there, $12,734. Again, this is going to automatically roll into 2024. These are items you committed to that you just didn't receive by the end of the year, 2023. And then the large piece there is your unassigned fund balance. You can see that went up by the $1.3 million, which is the surplus that you generated. So again, your general fund balance is financially strong. So again, how did you get there? Very quickly, these are your revenues that exceeded your expenses. I said your revenues that exceeded the final budget, the middle column there, by the $1.1 million. And I wrote down some of the descriptions at the bottom. We'll start with real property taxes. You can see your real property taxes came in over your budget. That doesn't mean that you collected more than your levy. It just means that you had taxes last year that were unpaid that were collected in the current year. So the regulations state that any taxes that you collect within 60 days after year end are considered good receivables, and the rest has to be deferred into the subsequent year. So last year you had a significant amount that were deferred, but those were collected in 2023 and continue into 24 with pretty good collections. What we call other tax items, these are your interest and penalties on your taxes. You can see that exceeded your budget by well over $100,000. The other significant category is the use of money and property, which is another fancy term for your interest earnings. Again, and you'll see in the next slide that, during the COVID years, 21 and into 22, your interest earnings were very, very minimal. But they were rather significant in 23, where you generated over $454,000 on a budget of $65,000. So that led to some of the surplus. Also, your fines and forfeitures, again, from the COVID years, 21 into 22, things were closed down. But as you can see, things are getting back to normal. So again, you had revenues generated $438,000, and that exceeded the budget by more than $300,000. And just lastly, is that just wanted to focus, not a significant item, but your state aid, which includes your mortgage tax revenues. That's only up about $4,000, where you had a budget of about $461,000. Your actual revenues came in at $465,000. I only point that out because with the high interest rate market now, with getting loans and mortgages and things like that, that the mortgage tax revenues has slowed down. This revenue line item was $1 million in 2022, and it's dropped in half in the 2023. So the next slide here, just pulled out some of those revenue items just to give you some trends. If we start with real property taxes, yeah, you can see that those have been increasing, but you're well within the 2% property tax cap over these 3 years. Your interest and penalties were trending upward, but as you can see, your collections in 2023 are up significantly compared to 22. So more people are paying, so there's less interest and penalties. So those are kind of directly related. So although that's dropped a little bit, you do have rather large collections in your property taxes. Your intergovernmental services clerk fees, pretty consistent over the 3 years, roughly around $300,000. Again, your use of money and property, you can see during COVID into 21 and even into 22, the rates were kind of non-existent. They were climbing in 22 and they kind of capped off in 2023. That probably trended into 2024, but it's kind of slowed down a little bit in the fourth quarter of 24. So we shall see what happens in the first quarter of 25 with those interest rates. Fines and forfeited bail, again, during COVID, things were shut down. We are pretty much back to normal now in 2023. So that's roughly trending up there. And your mortgage tax that we call state aid, it's kind of swinging all over the place here as the interest rate environment was low in 2021 and 22. You know, the housing market was good. People were refinancing, but as the loans interest rates have skyrocketed and we see less refinancing and less inventory of the housing market. So those are really the significant categories. We did the same on the expenditure side. Again, just here on a high level look, you had expenditure savings all the way to the right, where you see a variance with the final budget. Expenditure savings to the tune of about $380,000, all the way from your what we call general government support, which are your administrative costs, down to your employee benefits, which are your health insurance and your contributions to the pension system, to the state retirement system. But overall, a savings of $380,000, roughly 6% compared to your final budget. Well, again, just looking at some of the large major expenditures, those general government support, your administrative costs, pretty consistent over the 3 years, roughly about $2.5 million. You have transportation support services, again, was trending upwards over the past 3 years. But slight increases in 2023. Your parks expenditures also trending upwards. That's directly related to your parks revenue, which has also increased as well. But that's, again, trending upward from $800,000 in 21 to a little over $911,000 in 2023. Your state retirement is actually going down, although these are based on reported salaries times the contribution rate. And because the New York pension systems are funded and invested in the market has been doing pretty good. The contribution rates has declined. So although the salaries reported are going up, the rate has dropped a little bit. So you saw some savings in 22 and into 23. Your hospital and medical insurance trending upwards. You can see there's about a 3 to 5% increase in 2023. The general increase in your medical or your health insurance is roughly about 8 to 10%, but the town did look at some of where the folks were being charged as far as general fund highway, TOV, where they actually worked and kind of did a reallocation. Has been doing it late in 22 and into 23. So although we would have trended, that trend would have been about an 8% increase. We did see about a 3 to 5% because some of those folks were shifted into different funds. And your transfers out. Debt service fund to cover your principal and interest on your bonds. Capital projects fund to cover certain capital projects as well as some short-term borrowings. You have short-term bond anticipation notes. And what we call the special purpose fund, there is a contribution made to cover the Dale Cemetery, roughly about $100,000 over the past 3 years. We did the same for your Town Outside Villages Fund. Also a Town Outside Villages Fund, same type of presentation. If you look at the original budget, overall revenues, $4.4 million, expenditures of a little, just under $4.1 million, representing an excess of $347,000. And really had transfers out to mainly to the highway fund, to the capital projects fund, to the tune of $347,000 to balance your budget. Final budget, you can see no changes really to the revenues or the expenditures. You did amend the budget to transfer, I believe, about $264,000 to the highway fund for continued street paving. So you, instead of borrowing, you utilize your own resources to do that street paving. Again, so you can see that net change in fund balance, you were utilizing $264,000 to cover that. You appropriated your own fund balance. The third column is what actually happened, and even the TOV fund had a pretty good year. You can see that revenues came in better by $510,000, and you had expenditure savings of about $152,000. So again, you take revenue, subtract your expenses, and back out your transfers, and you had revenues that exceeded your expenditures by almost $400,000. I'm looking at the actual, the third column. You add that to your opening fund balance of $6.2 million, and you end the year at $6.6 million. Again, then this is a fund balance look. Again, 2023 to $6.6 million at the bottom. That's also, you've been adding to your fund balance over the past 3 years. You do have, again, the same type of buckets, if you will, non-spendable piece, a small piece for prepaid insurance or retirement. You do have money set aside or restricted for cable TV purposes, $282,000. But what we call the assigned for specific for town outside villages purposes is $6.3 million. So again, a very healthy fund balance for the town outside villages fund. Again, how did you get there? These are the revenue categories. The non-property taxes is the sales tax that you collect from the county. You can see that exceeded the final budget by over $362,000 on a budget of $1.1 million. You generated $1,460,000. So sales tax has been pretty consistent, trending upwards in every community. And we even see that at the town of Ossining here, even into 2024. So on a conservative budget, that's good to note that you're going to have some excess funds on your sales tax line as well into 2024. Another category there is your departmental income, which is your building inspection fees. That exceeded the budget by roughly about $49,000. And again, once again, your use of money and property, which are your interest earnings, on a conservative budget of $15,000, you were able to generate $88,000, a surplus of $73,000 for the town outside villages fund. Again, pulling out those 4 or 5 major categories, you can see your real property taxes, although up slightly, again, well within a 2% tax cap. That hasn't trended higher. You can see pretty much around $2.9 million. Your franchise fees, cable TV, we see a little decline in your public access grant fees. A lot of folks are streamlining, so these types of fees are not only in Ossining, but everywhere, kind of declining. Your non-property tax distribution from the county is, again, your sales tax. That's been trending upwards over the past 3 years and continues into 2024. Your permit fees, which are basically your safety inspection fees, are slightly up compared to 2022. We did see a little spike in the planning board fees in 2023, roughly about $17,000, and that generated some of the excess compared to 2022. And again, your mortgage tax allocation to the TOV fund, you can see that has been dropping. So we'll, yet to see where those interest rates are going, and if that would trend some more activity for refinancing or home sales and things like that. Again, this is your overall look at your expenditures, again, from your administrative type expenses all the way down to your employee benefits. You had a surplus compared to your final budget of roughly $152,000, roughly about 3.2% of your overall expenditures. And again, just looking at some of the trends in those areas, your general support, again, administrative costs, up slightly, about $75,000 compared to 2022. Your police fees, again, these are increases in contractual obligations. You do have intermunicipal agreements, and those are renegotiated on an annual basis. Your building inspection fees, pretty consistent, at least over the past 2 years. Your intermunicipal agreement with the village, again, that's a contractual obligation, up slightly, about $25,000 compared to 2022. And again, that's renegotiated on an annual basis. And here, your medical insurance, you can see that that's up roughly about anywhere from 8 to 10% compared to 2022. And your transfers, again, you do transfers generally about $200,000 a year to the highway fund, as I mentioned before. The town did some street paving, utilized some of its fund balance or some of its surplus to fund that. So you did increase that by $265,000 in 2023. Small amounts to the capital projects fund to do some capital work or to pay down some short-term bond anticipation notes. And the portion of your bonds that are allocated to the TOV or the town outside is what you transfer to the debt service fund to cover your debt service requirements. Quickly, you do operate other funds. Highway fund details can be found on pages 76 through 78. Again, the highway fund remains strong. You ended the year with revenues that exceeded expenditures by over $58,000. You have a strong fund balance. At the bottom there, you can see that, again, the fund balance is broken down into three components. You have money set aside for prepaid expenditures. You have open purchase orders, what we call assigned for transportation or home and community services, about $42,000. And what's really free and clear is the $1.5 million that's specifically set aside for highway purposes. You have a special districts fund to account for your townwide water fund, your consolidated sewer fund, your North State Street sewer fund, your street lighting, your fire protection, your refuse and garbage collection, and you also have an ambulance district. Those are incorporated into the special districts fund. That had expenditures that exceeded revenues, but it's only by $60,000. I would call that break even, if you will. And you still have a pretty good fund balance of $943,000 set aside to be used for those special districts. You have an active capital projects fund. The details of those projects are found on pages 83 to 86. There's roughly about 30 active projects. The capital projects fund does have a deficit of $2.2 million, but it is supported by short-term financing of what we call bond anticipation notes. Almost $3.5 million of those are outstanding. Those are not recognized as revenue until you pay those down or they're converted into bonds. So although you do have a deficit in the capital projects fund, they are supported by these types of short-term notes. I have a slide in here on your debt service requirements. You can see that the town has $2.85 million of bonds outstanding at December 31st, 2023. A variety of bonds, did some refinancing back in 2021, got some very good interest rates. So your interest rates are a low of 0.5% up to roughly about 4.25%. At the bottom there, we are required to report those payments to maturity over the next 5 years and then in increments of 5 years. You can see that your debt service requirements over the next 3 years, at least roughly about $500,000 and $580,000. So from a overall budget perspective, when you factor in your general fund, your TOV, your highway, your debt service requirements are not that significant compared to your overall budget. And then I'm just going to close here. Again, really good year. The town's overall good financial health can be credited to you folks, the continued leadership of the town board, as well as the finance department. I talk to Dale pretty much all year round. Obviously, we focus on the year end during the audit season, but she'll bounce things off of me. So we don't have to address it at the end. So we encourage that. So we don't have to undo things. So the books and records are very clean. And why is all the good health important is because you're probably in your budget process now. So it's going to help you when you do your tax levy. You will eventually refinance or borrow. You have a great bond rating, a AA1. That's going to give you a competitive interest rate when you go out to the bond market. And you've been utilizing some of this fund balance to fund unexpected expenditures rather than borrowing. So you're utilizing that, and this allows you to do that by having such surplus funds. So that's really it, a pretty good year. What we have on the horizon, there are a few government accounting standard boards pronouncements that may impact the town. One is for next year. We're up to 103 standards. We started out pretty much the significant one was what we call GASB 34, which was many years back, but we're well over 100. So they're very active in that board. But we'll work with the finance folks on implementing these if necessary. Again, in 24, we have compensated absences. You are reporting them. Currently, they've changed the definition, so we'll have to look at your labor contracts to see if things may have to be added to those. But again, it won't affect your budget process. And there are a couple that will impact you in 25 and 26, and we'll work with the finance folks to see if those need to be implemented. So again, a really pretty good year. And if there's any questions, I know I went through a lot of numbers in a short period of time, but if there are questions, I'll take them. If something comes up after the fact, you can email me or email Dale and I'll address it.
Thank you very much. I do want to shout out our finance department and this, Dale and her team, Liz, especially, really work hard at they keep us in line, if we go to spend something, I'm like, nope, you can't do that. Anyway, but really working closely with you and, everything we do, we keep track of it for the auditors to make sure that it's reported properly so that you can create these wonderful documents. Super excited to keep our AA1 rating. But I really just want to shout out the finance department for all the work they do and O'Connor Dave, PKF O'Connor Davies, for all the work you do and putting all this together. It's no small lift on either one of your parts. So
Thank you.
do any of my colleagues have specific questions?
Just, thanks for the presentation, and I just want to credit the supervisor and Martha, the budget officer, for doing a good job and keeping everything in order. Great.
Yes.
Amen.
Yes, Martha put everything in the right place, so we could figure this out. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rob, and thank you, Town Board Supervisor Feldman, and of course, Martha. It truly is a team effort, and the finance office really does try to help all the time. We hope where we can, whether it's trying to find vehicles or just make sure we're covered for our ARPA funds. We definitely work as a team and definitely appreciate that team spirit, along with Rob and his crew. Always helpful, Rob, with answering our questions at any time of the year or any time of the day. So that's appreciated. And your audit team that always is very patient if we're hitting a roadblock and need a little more time to get them something, or just not understanding what they're looking for. They're very quick to clarify, and so we make sure we're all on the same page. So great team effort all around. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you too.
Thanks.
All right, good year, everybody. I don't know how we're gonna look after the paving of Ganong, but we'll be fine. We'll be fine. Okay, so last but not least, our River Jam wrap up. So,
Sorry, Rob, can you just stop sharing your screen? Thank you.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
No problem. Thank you.
How do I, there we go. Hold on. Good.
Let's give it a second. Nope, we're still seeing it. I mean, I guess if you log off already, it'll just disappear. That
Okay,
could be another
all right.
option if you can figure it out,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you.
Concert series.
I mean, if you can,
Thank
but if
you,
you can't
Rob.
figure it out. then
Oh, there it
you-
goes. Good. Better?
Yeah,
That's better. There we go. Thank you.
All right, so our River Jam concert series went off very well this year. We were mostly lucky with the weather. We had to utilize one rain date. We had a good diverse group of bands, good food trucks. We partnered with the chamber. We did pretty well. So our revenues or our expenses, sorry, the expenses that the town incurred as a part of the River Jam. The bands cost us $6,250. The BMI music license was $435. Our sound services were $3,925. The banners and the yearly web domain were $1,926. Our overtime was the big part, $9,731.71. For a grand total of, and that's of costing us $22,267. And then $25,000 on top of that for fireworks. Yeah. For the fireworks, for a total of, it's not here, but I think it's 42,000.
Yeah, I think it's because we typically
48.
count them. We don't count the fireworks as part of River Gem. It's its kind of own unique
Yeah.
part. So we usually don't total those two up.
I still think it's part of it, but okay, I understand that. The chamber also totaled up what they were able to do. And they were able to get sponsorships totaling $8,500. And revenue from hold on, this isn't laid out the way I want it to be. Okay, all right, and revenue from the vendors. So their total revenue, sponsors and vendors, was $14,700. Of that, the subtotal going to the town is, are you reading this right? The total that went to the chamber is $6,150. And in our agreement with the chamber is that they will use this for community purposes, to benefit the businesses and other community purposes. Well, we wanted to benefit the businesses, but so they spent money on their chamber operations, their rent and everything. Their total proceeds were $5,800. Their operations and rent, they spent $580. They gave some money to the OHS marching band's trip of $250. They sponsored the Galata House at $250. They are sponsoring a multi-chamber networking event for $920. They're sponsoring the chamber holiday party at the 19th hole for $1,250. They made a beautiful community map of where all the local businesses are for $1,300. Their social media promotion campaign for the winter and the spring is expected to be $500. Their winter spring education series, a 3-part series on branding and social media, is expected to cost $750, which is something that businesses can take part in. It's an education series for businesses to help learn how to promote themselves by branding and by using social media. So that should be great. So that's what they used the money for.
For 6,100, that's what they did, their 6,100,
Yes,
and then we kept the rest, the town. That's
and
the
we got
difference
83, yeah,
To offset our costs.
to offset the,
The staff hours that we used, was that just 2 men each series? Sorry. Was that staff hours, the 9,000? That's just 2 employees for each River Jam?
They're more on the fireworks day,
Oh, so that 9,000 was including the fireworks for. that's-
including the concert for the fireworks.
Yeah, and just to make it clear that $9,231.71 is not charged directly to the celebrations line. It is part of the parks, and if, I believe there's one evening when one of the highway guys also helped out, that's charged directly to their overtime line. So if you ever wish to see a report on the celebrations line, that's not gonna be reflected on it. But we have asked, the highway and the parks department and the cemetery gentlemen to keep track of their hours, so at the end, we can present this to the board. So that's just in case somebody wants to report on the line, it's not reflected there.
I was
So we-
just curious to see what it would have been last year. Was it about the same, do you think? Do you remember?
When we were comparing last year's, it was less because we had less events this
We had
year.
2 less
Mhm.
events.
We had 2 less events. Additionally, the other thing is, the cost went down this year also because we weren't asking, Keith, the sound guy, to hold the event. Because right now we had him hold Fridays and Saturdays last year, or
No, we
Sundays.
had him hold every Sunday.
Every
and it
Sunday,
cost him
thank you.
$200.
Now it was,
We had separate dates set aside at the end of the series available for the rain date instead of moving it to the Sunday and having him reserve the day.
yeah, and it seems to have worked a lot better, and he liked it because it freed up his weekends as well. He wasn't like stuck here on Sundays waiting for it to rain or not rain to see we're having the event. It worked out better with Keith, yeah.
And this year we developed our own graphics. Paige had done the poster instead of hiring a designer. So that was also a cost savings.
I think it's a good event. Keep it going.
Does the vendor revenue that you mentioned, is that the chamber charges a fee to the vendors?
Yeah,
Or,
there's a fee for them to be there.
and then theoretically, we pull more off of sales tax as well?
Can't answer that intelligently.
Just curious.
I mean, as a vendor pays sales tax, yeah.
Yeah, so
theoretically,
theoretically,
yeah.
you might get a little bit more than what.
Mhm.
A little bit.
Yeah,
It's accrued here in our town.
right.
Exactly. So,
So I believe the question that we wanted to ask the board, and something that the chamber and the other people we contract with are asking is, are you guys okay with renewing this for next year? Or would you guys like to think about it a little bit more? Just because they were asking for the contract to be renewed as soon as we can, start 2025, so we can get the process rolling.
Well, my my first comment is, from the numbers that you just ran, it seems like it was run well. And it seems like, I mean, I participated or attended almost every concert. I didn't see anything that seemed out of line or whatever. But what we need to understand is, what is the status of the Chamber of Commerce?
right.
Is their organization secure in their being able to continue to run it in their current form? If you know what I
They
mean.
are undergoing elections soon, I believe.
Mm.
And we'll understand who the principal players will be. And if they want to undertake this also.
Yeah, like,
think-
I don't feel
I think
com-
we need to let the organization make their choices and then come to us with, yes, we are confident we can supply the same services that we've supplied all the other years. in the
Right,
town.
that's what I'm saying, like, I don't feel
Right.
comfortable answering that question until I know that they're in and of themselves, like, in a good place. That they're organized and they're able to run it the way they did last
And
time.
they're able to commit to being there early and setting up the food trucks and, the chamber really does take a large part in what goes on down there. They're there to, they make sure that with one of their responsibilities is make sure that all the insurances and all of the food permits are done by the food trucks and they're moving on away from food trucks into teaching restaurants, local restaurants, how they can also participate. So they had some kind of a tutorial going there. I think Craven Jamaican was helping some of the other restaurants learn how to do that. So I felt very good about that. So, there's a process with that. there's a lot of pieces that they do, and when they pick their new board, we'll sit down and, you know, as they identify if they want to do this and if they feel that they can do this, we'll talk to them about all the different pieces that we need them to do and make sure they're comfortable and confident that they can perform those duties as well. The other thing we need to talk about is the beverage corral. There were some, you know, we've had a formula that we've used for a long time. It's been working well. I think there are other ideas coming forward that I think Sing Sing Kill is going to be talking to some of the other local beverage providers about how they might incorporate other entities into the concert series, and that's a conversation in progress too, so we're probably gonna have to come back and talk about that as well. That conversation hasn't happened, or that plan hasn't evolved fully, but the all the different vendors that are looking to participate are having conversations within the walls of the chamber, and I think that's the best way to have that handle. I don't think the board is the best equipped to work out that relationship and that situationship. So if they can come to us with a proposal that we think works for us, I think that's the best solution. If not, we may have a harder decision to make. Right.
Yeah, I think it's all great, and I don't know if I went to everyone last year, but I went to a lot, and it was great, and the chamber did great, Sing Sing Kill did great. One thing, I guess, to Jen's point is, you know, as leadership changes in these things, one thing I think maybe we want to think about is putting in the contract, kind of delineating what can or cannot be done with funds that go back to the chamber.
It's in there.
Okay.
The new leadership wasn't as aware, but almost everything here does directly benefit the local businesses, so they're within the main parameters. It's very little that went outside of the parameters that we had set. And it's nice to have an accounting. We didn't have an accounting
Yes.
for the last couple of years, so.
It's getting bigger, so as it's growing, we're gonna need to do more overlook. And then leading to that is, the only thing I see is that we have some plans for the Lewis Angle Park coming up, right?
We are hoping that we can not interfere with the season from Earth Day through to the end of the concert series. That is my dreamed of construction timing. What the county does with our timeline is more in the bathrooms down at the end. We're gonna be working with the contract and starting with the plans for this stage soon and letting McLaren design that. Hopefully we can get to the construction process next fall, and it should be hopefully complete by spring. So that's the goal.
Okay.
The county and the DEC may have other ideas for us, but you know, if we can kind of push through, we'll see if we can meet our goals.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. And the music, we had some set aside bands that stepped aside last year so that new bands could try this year. So we have 3 that we have pretty much decided on already, and the other 3 will be talking about seeing how we can have different types of music there. I think we're gonna work from the list. In my mind, we have such a big list from last year. I think that we should continue to work from the list that we got last year.
Are the Risco's
Instead of
still
going through
interested? The Risco's
They are
interested?
absolutely interested and they are willing to, they are very helpful getting the bios, setting them up, making sure they have the plans, know where to park, what to do. It's a big load off our office to have the Risco's helping us.
Definitely.
Cool. All right. And that's everything I have for today. Do you have anything? Contracts? I'm asking if you have anything for executive session.
Yes.
Okay. All right. We will turn to executive session for contracts, litigation, and
Super.
advice of counsel.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody, and have a good evening.